This is Coffee with Kelly, a dynamic podcast that's dedicated to driving positive change in school safety. I'm your host, Ethan Woodman, Product Marketing Specialist for Crisis Go, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Kelly Moore, Senior School Safety Specialist for Crisis Go. Our mission is to empower you with essential knowledge, tools, and inspiration required to foster a safer and more secure school environment. We hope this podcast will be the catalyst for transformation in your schools. Join us as we continue to dive into the world of school safety.
Hello, my name is Kelly Moore, and I'm the Senior Safety Specialist here at Crisis Go, and I would like to address the attacks on New Year's Eve in New Orleans and at Trump Towers. I'd like to say all of our thoughts and prayers go out to those impacted by these events. And as we begin to learn more information about these events, we will see the motive behind these events, these attacks, and we will start to understand why they occurred and how they occurred. That being said, that's going to take several days, if not weeks, months, and in some cases years, depending on how involved this is. But we are going to start hearing information. Much of that information initially will be updated, changed, corrected, and so forth. So there's always this back and forth as to we should wait till we have all of the information and we understand exactly what happened. I disagree to some extent with this philosophy. I don't think we need all of the information to start learning from these events. I don't think we need to understand the motive. I don't think we need to understand who's behind it. I don't think we need to all these small details on what happened and how we address these events. There's a lot that we can glean from what we do know. We do know that there were two separate attacks. We do know that the federal agencies involved, and there's going to be more than just the FBI, there's going to be lots of them. We do know that they're going to start trying to connect these two events together. They may or may not be successful there, but they're going to check. That's irrelevant to me from a perspective of what do I need to do to protect myself? What do I need to do to protect my school, my organization, my community, my family? What do I need to do there? And so what I do need to look at is how that event unfolded. What were the tools that were used? What was the planning that went into that? And what were the precursors to that event? A lot of you are saying, well, you just said we don't need all of that information. We don't, but we do know that there's likely more than one person involved in the New Orleans event. We do know that there were improvised explosive devices found. And we do know that there was an initial attack by something other than a firearm. So from a protective perspective, we have to look at vehicle-initiated attacks. This is not the first one of these. In fact, there's been several. Many of you know that I was involved as an incident commander for what is commonly referred to as an active shooter event, which is all aspects of it. It was, but it was also more than that. In my event, the suspect not only shot people, he stabbed people, and he drove his car around the small community in which this occurred, running people over, attacking them with his vehicle. In the Trump Tower event, there was a vehicle that was driven into the valet parking area and exploded. We'll find out how or why or what happened there, but exploded, killing the occupant of the vehicle and injuring 7 people. At the time of this recording, it's being considered an attack. What were the precursors? What were the indicators? What was happening when that occurred that gave us early warning? That's the area where I want to focus here, is the point in which the normal traffic flow or the normal activities that you would expect, the point that deviated to an attack, went around or through barricades, came up to valet with no attempt to get out, foot on the brake. I'm sure we're going to see some human behaviors on video. We're going to see some things that led up to the actual initiation of the events, both of those events. And what could we do to prevent the next one? What are those early warning signs, those human behaviors that have to have taken place to help us understand how we can protect ourselves, our schools, from this type of attack? We do know that terrorist organizations have attacked schools historically. This is not out of the realm of possibility. If this was indeed an organized attack on New Year's Day that was connected and was meant to terrorize the United States, which there are many indicators that that's where it's pointing to, how does that impact us at the local level? What do we need to do? First of all, I think this is a huge indicator that we need to start working much more closely with law enforcement and the intelligence community. We need to understand what's going on there. We need to understand our vulnerabilities. What are the events that could be similar to what we saw on New Year's Day that could be targets for similar situations, a similar attack? And when I say similar, I mean kind of similar. Look at the higher level. What events do we have where there's lots of people congregating, traffic flow, pedestrian traffic flow? What are those events that would put us into a position where we're vulnerable to a similar type attack, right? And if you look at the New Orleans event, then you should be considering pickup and drop off. If you are looking at the Trump Tower event, then you should be looking at maybe the bus loop where kids are being dropped off. If you have a drop off area that is right in front of your school that is close to the office, maybe that's a location that you should be considering. What about sporting events where you have large crowds of people going in and out of the sporting event at any given time? What if your sporting event requires people to line up near a public street while they wait to get into the event? What if your sporting event, or let's say a drama presentation, requires people to park in a parking lot and then walk in the same direction towards an entry point that is still accessible to vehicles being adjacent to that location? What is our response? What are we going to do? How do we work through that? I can't answer those questions for you. But what I can say is that these types of events are possible. You've heard me talk pretty extensively about left of bank and what we can do before the event is initiated and what we can do to mitigate, prevent that from occurring. What kind of training do we need? What kind of security barriers do we need to create? How about video surveillance? Do we need added law enforcement personnel at these events? These are all things that we need to start thinking about. If we are to get ahead of this, we have to take these events and start saying, what would that look like if it occurred here? Am I ready to respond to that? Is our organization ready to respond to that? How do we work with our first responders? How do we work with our emergency medical services? How do we get all of that going? Because this is a pretty strong potential. We know that copycat crimes like this pop up when somebody is successful. And you can argue that they were very successful here. Now is the time to evaluate, take in that information as much as you can, and start looking at ways that we can prevent and or mitigate these types of events from happening on our schools. As always, if you need any help with that, please contact me at Kelly, Kelly, .more, MOORE, at crisisgo.com, and I'd be happy to walk through those scenarios with you. And maybe we can help each other work through that so that this doesn't happen to you, or if it does, you'll know exactly what you need to do. And by all means, don't wait for this to happen to somebody else. Start looking at ways that you can make a difference now before it's too late. With that, I wish you a happy new year. And if there's anything we can do at Crisis Go to help you along with your safety journey, please do not hesitate to reach out, and we'll be happy to help any way we can.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you have any questions about what we discussed, leave a comment on our website at crisisgo.com. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Coffee with Kelly, a discussion on school safety.